Well, uh, for those of you who saw my earlier video on my first time using this uh, evolution engine named Evolution, um, you may or may not recognize this thing that's walking across the screen. It's up to generation 149 right now, showing best of generation 148 up in the upper right hand corner. And this is not what it was doing when I stopped the video. I haven't finished the editing yet for the original one, but I will finish that and upload that before I upload this. Um, I just thought this, anybody who's seen that one might find this rather interesting because I did mention that it may or may not evolve to end up rolling as a wheel. And I mentioned that the shape itself doesn't evolve, and that's true. But the neural network does evolve, and the neural network decides how the muscles push and pull. And so this is why I designed this particular one in such a way that the muscles themselves could reshape it into a wheel, and it did work. And then here it is. Now it's up to generation 155, and it's not rolling anymore. And for those who missed the first one, I'm going to go ahead and hit back here. Oh, here, let me do something else first. I'm going to click on show muscle contractions. I've seen somebody do that before. Um, Now you can see the difference between contraction and expansion. Expansion is blue, contraction is red. I don't know why they labeled that show muscle contraction when they all looked like muscle contractions before because it was already red. But at any rate, there's a distinction now. And yeah, if I click on show one at a time, you can see just one of them running along, and it makes it a lot easier to see. In the earlier video, I zoomed in on the best of generation to show that. But as you can see, it's basically acting like it's got two legs and a sort of head. And it seems to just flip itself down into that position and start running. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit back, and I'm going to just click evolve again on the same one, and you can see right away it springs out. So you can see this is the thing that last simple wheel that I made, and it does sometimes spring itself out into a sort of wheel. Doesn't roll real well, but it is capable of doing some rolling. And apparently, it managed to evolve better walkers than rollers, which I'm not really all that surprised about because if you look carefully at it, you'll notice that the sides aren't all the same size. 3 of the 6 sides are rather large, flat sides, and so that might make it a little bit hard to actually get rolling. Here again, if I switch it to show one at a time, we're up to generation 6 right now, and you can see it can roll, but it kind of gets stuck, and then it starts bouncing around trying to get going again. And as the neural network evolves, it might become better at rolling, but since it tends to breed from those that are most often from those that are most successful, if one of the walkers is more successful than one of the rollers, then it'll choose that instead. Now, you might be able to tell there is actually a way that it could roll without unfolding like that. It could actually roll in its folded form, and I don't know if it might evolve that ability given enough tries. If one of the evolutions of the neural network might evolve that ability, but um, each generation, I don't know if the individual generations learn anything at all. They might, but I don't think so. I think they're just the neural network is basically just input and output, And either way, though, if there is anything learned within a generation, it's lost in the next generation. The closest thing to learning this thing has, and on the website it uses the word learn in quotes, like, so-called learn. The closest thing that it has to actually learning is inheriting the specifics of a neural network. And so it's not really the individual learning in that sense. It's more of the neural network itself evolving sort of intuition, instinct, not intuition. I used the wrong word. I don't think intuition would actually quite apply. Basically, it evolves instincts, and the instincts basically tell it, if you get a certain set of input, here's what reaction you should have to that. And so it really doesn't know what it's doing. It just does it. So at any rate, yeah, as you can see, it's still trying different things out. And here, I'm going to go back and switch tasks. How about jumping? And try evolving that. So, yeah, this is okay. It's finished one generation, and up in the corner, it's showing the best of generation 1. And you can see that one didn't do very much jumping, but then again, it's the first generation. It basically, out of 50 random neural networks, that was the best of them. Now, generation 2 does a little bit better because it probably inherited some of those genes from number 1, and maybe had a random mutation or two that helped it out a bit, or possibly inherited some genes from one of the other ones that were a slight improvement over those particular genes from the more successful one. So there we're up to generation 7, and showing the best of generation 6 in the upper right. So it's not really learning all that well to jump, is it? I wish I could go back to my earlier one and show you how that jumps. I'll recreate it. Let's just do that. Here, delete. Get rid of all of these bones, and I guess I can leave that one. And here, just do that. And let's see, add joints here, there, 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 there. Add bones. Connecting those. And I'm not trying to get this real perfect or anything. The muscles will have to compensate for any imperfections. The neural network will have to compensate for that. Here, I can move this one down just a little bit to match the other one's a little better. And now the muscles. Okay, so I want to go, let's see, from here, that, and this bone to this bone, and this bone to this bone, this bone to this bone, connect this bone to this bone, and connect this bone to this bone. There's one direction. Okay, second direction. Forgot this one. Okay, this bone to that bone, this bone to that bone, this bone to that bone, and the last of the 3 directions that I want the muscles to be able to pull in. Connect What just happened? Something got connected wrong from this bone. So I'm just going to delete that bone because I don't know if I can I delete the individual muscle that went bad? Yeah, I think I can. Oh, then I won't delete the bone. Okay. Try that muscle again. Somehow it connected to the wrong one. Okay, there, got that. And up here, this bone to this bone to this bone. There. Okay. So there's my wheel again, my 12-sided wheel. And okay, it's all set for jumping. Let's go ahead and evolve this one on the jumping and see how it does. And I'll just go ahead and leave this as it is. I'm not actually planning on editing this video. I wasn't going to make it this long. I was just going to just show what had happened to those things. But I hadn't even planned to make this video at all. My next video on this series was meant to be making the simplest creature I could manage to figure out how to make. And the idea being that evolution in life, which is what this is, I think, sort of trying to simulate, had to start out simple. There's no way nature could have just popped a complex thing into existence to start from. So it had to start out simple. And in this case, you can also start out simple in here, and the neural network should be able to do something with some pretty simple things because the neural network itself evolves. Now, if the shape of the simple things could evolve as well, then evolution could also do something with that. But unfortunately, this program doesn't have that feature. I wish it did. I wish you could. I wish it could have you could turn on a switch that would allow it to make random mutations to the actual form of the thing as well. But yeah, as you can see, it's doing a pretty decent job of learning to jump. And now, if I were there's two other, I believe there's two other activities or tests. There's an obstacle jump and climbing. I'm going to try the obstacle jump, which, as I understand it, the obstacle jump, it gives them fitness points for actually jumping, for getting off the ground, and also for any number of nodes that don't get hit by that ball rolling by. Basically, any of the joints that don't get hit by it gets points for that. So the more of its joints it gets out of the way of the ball, the better it'll score. Now we're up to generation 4 already, and I don't even see any jumping going on. So evidently, it must not be really giving a lot of score to the jumping itself, because they're not really picking that up as fast as they were when that was their only criteria. So, yeah, not doing real well at this task. Now, of course, it's only been 6 generations, and again, the neural network it has a little bit of randomness involved, and picking out from what was best of what's available, and then breeding them with each other, basically. And so it could be that if I ran this all over again, it would start out differently and might happen faster, might not, don't know. But yeah, I see it's rolling some of them. Yeah, that's definitely not getting out of the way of the ball. If anybody knows how to contact the author of this thing, I haven't looked into that yet, but I definitely got some suggestions. For one, um, evolution has to start gradually. It has to, when it's happening automatically like this, when it's, nature or some, program that doesn't have a goal, doesn't know what it's doing. If you want it, if you want evolution to work well, it helps if there's not much change needed all at once. And you can see this ball is huge. It's basically running the thing over, and they're wobbling a little bit, but that's not really enough to make much of a difference. And so what I would suggest is start out with a smaller ball, just a tiny little thing like the size of the joints, and roll that by until they all manage to jump out of the way of that, and then increase its size a little bit. And when they all manage to jump out of the way of that, increase its size a little bit more, and keep doing that up to a maximum size. Anyway, I'm going to give up on this one for now because it just doesn't seem to be learning how to do that. And I could rerun it, but I'm not going to do that right now. Instead, I'm going to go to the climbing one, which I'm pretty certain it's going to fail. There is a chance that it could actually figure out how to do this one. Basically, all it would have to do is contract pretty much all of its muscles in one direction to flatten itself out, and then use its other muscles to change what direction it's flattened in, and sort of roll up the hill. Now, it's a very steep hill, so it might not even be able to do it then, but I think it could. I think it's highly unlikely that it will. So, and there it goes. And as you can see, they do roll good downhill, but the idea of this test is to try to go uphill, not downhill. And as you can see, it's sort of favoring right now those that at least don't roll downhill well. Up there on the upper right hand corner, you can see best of generation 3 right now. It's compacted itself down into a little triangle. And as generation 4 also compacted into a little triangle, but still just sliding down the hill. Even if it's not rolling, it's just sliding down. Doesn't really have any way to get a grip. So yeah, no chance there. And there again, like with the obstacle thing, this could start out with that ground completely level, and as soon as they're able to move maybe a certain distance to the right, maybe about half the screen's width or something, to the right, which would be the direction that's uphill on the slope, then tilt the slope a little bit. And when they manage to make it that far again in that same direction, then tilt it a little bit more, and just keep doing that again until you reach a maximum incline, which is where it's at now. And by then they should have evolved the ability to at least do reasonably well on something close to that. And so then they wouldn't have all that terribly far to go, and evolving a neural network that could figure out how to actually climb up a steep hill, because that's a very steep hill. And I mean, this is basically a ball or a wheel. It's round. It really shouldn't be expected to climb stairs. So, at any rate, enough of that. Yeah. I'm going to show you something. Here, let's see. Move. Let's just do this. I'm going to go up here. and just do, let's see, this. There. Got a plan. This here, and this here, and this here, and this here. You remember how it was compacting itself basically into a triangle? Well, that's sort of what I'm doing here. I'm starting out by compacting it into a little hexagon. And then I'm going to take these here, and I'm actually going to bring them right into the center, I think. I'll move this one just a little bit more. So this is completely changing its shape. But the muscles are still all attached the same way. And so I'm gonna bring this thing back to running. Well, let's run it for a moment on climbing first, just to see if that's any different. And you can see right away one of them sprung back out into a wheel, which did it no good whatsoever. The rest are starting out as tumbling triangles. You got a wheel sort of crumpling a little bit. Yeah, the odds of randomly hitting anything that's going to really do any good at all there are pretty slim. So, like I said, it would be better if the program started out with little or no incline and slowly increased it over the course of several or many generations to eventually evolve uphill climbing ability. It would work a lot better. So I'm going to go back here and set this for running and just click evolve. And there they are, sprung back out into wheels, a couple of them already. And they're bouncing up and down instead of rolling. But there again, if I left it enough generations, they would most likely evolve the ability to roll. They might just evolve the ability to walk, and that's what I was saying before. Before I shut the other video off and it stopped recording, and I left it running in the background. When I came back, sure enough, that's exactly what they were doing. They were basically galloping along like weird looking little radioactivity symbol horses radioactivity symbol shaped horses, basically, or something like that. And yeah, I was a little bit surprised, not terribly surprised to see that happen, but a little bit surprised because they had already evolved some neural network functionality in rolling. They were doing a decent job of rolling, and then I come back and look, and they're not rolling anymore. They're basically running. So yeah, any rate, enough of this. Thanks for watching, and again, keep an eye out for that planned episode with the simplest creature I can make in here. There'll be a little more than that, I'm sure, in that episode, but that's meant to be the highlight of it. And I don't know exactly how it's going to turn out. So I'll discover that as well. You might notice my videos are generally completely unedited. If I edit them at all, it's not generally much editing. Like that earlier one, basically all the editing I did was enough to put the best of generation screen up in the foreground during some of the evolution, so it was easier to see the ones that were doing the best of the group. Any rate, enough of that. Thank you very much.